Hello and welcome to the Hoji YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to run through a brief but fairly detailed demo of Hoji. If you're new here, Hoji is a cloud-hosted mobile data collection and analysis platform. It is useful for collecting any kind of quantitative data from the field and transmitting the results to a central server for analysis and decision making. The application is used by development organizations in a wide range of sectors, including health, agriculture, and education. Some companies also use it for inspections and for tracking field-based sales activity. In this demo, I'm going to show you some of Hoji's core features. Once you watch the demo, you can repeat the same steps yourself using your laptop and mobile phone. I encourage you to try it. We're going to cover the entire process from signing up to creating a short data entry form, filling it out, and reviewing some data analysis reports. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the Hoji website on my laptop and create a new user account. I'm already there, so I simply need to click on Create a Free Account. Now, in order to create a user account on Hoji, I will need to enter my name, my email address, and the password that I would like to use for the service. Now, the application automatically sends me a verification link to my email address. I'm going to verify my email address later, so for now, I'm just going to continue. The application homepage shows me all the projects under my account. Although my account is brand new, I can see that I have a sample project to get me started. There are some interesting things there, but for now, I'm going to ignore the sample so that we can proceed with creating our own project. For my new project, I'm going to imagine that I'm conducting a patient exit survey for clients served at a government clinic. I want to investigate how long it takes before patients can be seen by the doctor. I have designed a questionnaire with 5 questions. Of course, it's an oversimplified example. In the real world, the questionnaire would be much more detailed. And so the first thing I'm going to do is create a project. A project is simply a container for related forms. I'm going to call my project Patient Exit Survey. Once I have created my project, I can then add some forms to it. In this case, I only have one form. A form is the same thing as a questionnaire. I'm going to call my form Patient Questionnaire. I'll have it collect GPS data always. And lastly, so there is my form. Lastly, I'm going to add some fields or questions to my questionnaire. A field is the same thing as a question. I'm going to start with an introduction statement. So I click on Add Field and I say Introduction. The field type for this is going to simply be label. And I will add an introductory statement that says, I would like to ask you some questions about your experience at the clinic today. All right. So I save that. And now we get into the meat of the questionnaire. So my first question is, what is your name? What is your name? This, of course, is going to be a single line of text. And in the data set, I'd like the variable to show up as name instead of this long piece of text that says, what is your name? So I add that field. And I move on to the second field, which is, are you male or female? But then you'll notice for a question like that, we need options. So the user needs to be able to select between male and female. We set that by setting a choice list, but you notice we don't have any choice list at the moment. So we click here to add the list of choices that we're going to need for the rest of the questionnaire. So I click on add choices, and the first one is going to be male, enter, and female. That list of choices is going to be referred to as sex. All right. They're going to be ordered in the same order that we entered them. So male, then female. And we are also going to need, and you will see shortly why, we're going to need appointments and walk-in. You're going to call this visit type. And we are going to need yes and no. So yes as one option, no as another option, and the two of those together will be called yes/no. The great thing about Hoji is that once you create a choice list like this, you can reuse them in future forms and future projects. So we close this and go back where we started, and we add the second field, which is, are you male or female? Right? And this is going to be select one, either male or female, from the list of choices called sex, which has male and female, and we are going to call this variable sex. Then we want to know what kind of visit the patient came in for today. Is it by appointment, or did they just walk in? So we say add field, and we say what kind of visit did you make today? What kind of visit did you make today? That's also going to be select one from visit type, which has appointment and walk-in, and we're going to call this variable visit type. Save that, and then we want to know whether or not they saw a doctor today. So add field, did you see a doctor today? This is also going to be select one, and it's going to be yes or no, and the variable will be called so doctor, right? And then the last one, how many minutes did you have to wait before seeing the doctor? How many minutes did you have to wait before seeing the doctor? This is going to be an integer, so they'll just round off the number of minutes, and you don't need a choice list for that because they're not selecting from any options, and you're going to call this variable waiting time. Lastly, it's important to thank the respondent, so we add a thank you note. We're just going to say thank you. This, just like before, is going to be a label as we did for the introduction, and we need to add an instruction here that says something like, I appreciate you taking your time to speak to me. So I appreciate your taking the time to speak to me, right? So there we go. We've got a complete questionnaire, but there's something I think we need to do here, because we're not going to ask how many minutes did you have to wait before seeing the doctor if you say you did not see the doctor. So we need to add what's called skip logic here. Some people call them skip patterns or branching logic. So we're going to go to actions and add skip logic. And our skip logic is going to say show field B if A equals X. And the way that works is you say show how many minutes did you have to wait before seeing the doctor if did you see the doctor today is equal to yes. So it's that simple. And then we add skip logic. Skip logic has been added, and you can see it under the field where we added it. So here it is. Show how many minutes did you have to wait before seeing the doctor only if did you see a doctor today is equal to yes. If you go back to the form, we can see the list of questions. Just one last thing left to do before we deploy this project, and it is to auto number the fields. That way they get numbered properly, and the labels don't have the numbers anymore because they won't show up on the mobile application anyway. So the last step is to go to the project itself through the breadcrumb menu at the top. You click on Patient Exit Survey, and then you deploy the project. And that makes it available for data entry on the mobile app. We are ready for data entry now, so we head over to our mobile device. And the first thing we're going to do, of course, is install the Hoji mobile app through Google Play Store. So we search for Hoji, and once we find it, we click on install. Once it has installed, I click on open. I already have an account, so all I need to do is sign in with my email and password. There we are. Here's our project, and so we just tap on it to download it. You can see the questionnaire we created earlier here. So we're just going to proceed and make a couple of dummy entries. I'm going to allow location access so that the device can pick up our location. And the first patient we are going to interview is Alice. Alice is female. She had an appointment today. She saw the doctor and she waited 18 minutes before seeing him. And then there is a thank you note. I appreciate you taking time to speak with me. And then the next patient is Jacob. Jacob is male. He also had an appointment. He saw the doctor and he waited 10 minutes. Notice that as we complete filling the questionnaires, they are sent automatically. If we weren't connected to the internet, they would sit around in the outbox until connectivity is restored. Patient number 3 is Brian. Brian is male. He walked in. He saw the doctor after waiting 14 minutes. Then we have Charles. Charles. Charles is male. He had an appointment. He didn't see the doctor for whatever reason. Now you notice the skip logic that we implemented earlier when digitizing this form is such that if you didn't see the doctor, then we don't ask you how long it took you to see him, because it doesn't make sense. And then lastly, we have Jane. Jane is female. Jane walked in, saw the doctor after a record 4 minutes. So all of the entries that we have made are here in the Sent tab, and you can see them. You can click on an entry to open it and review it by scrolling up and down. You can even make edits if necessary by tapping on a particular question, but we're not going to do that now. Great, so we're done with data entry, and we are just going to head over back to the web application to review these results and look at some of the reports of the data analysis. We're now back on the web application. This time around, we don't need to create an account because we already created one, so we sign in. And just like before, on the homepage, you can see your list of projects. This time you've got 2, including the patient exit survey that we created earlier. So you click on that to open the project, and you can see the form under the project, patient questionnaire. You click on that to open the form. Just like before, you can see the list of all your fields. Now, in order to see your data analysis reports, you go to data reports. Let's begin with the simplest, which is a data table. The data table simply lays out your data sets in a tabular format. So you can see the variable names we specified earlier. So name, sex, visit type, and so on, and whether you saw the doctor. And then as you scroll towards the right, you can see some metadata. So more information that's just attached by the system automatically. So who entered the data, what time was it entered, when did they complete that questionnaire, when was it uploaded, how long did it take in terms of how many questions were getting filled per minute. So a whole bunch of metadata, including location information as well. Longitude and latitude and so on, and the GPS accuracy. So this is like the simplest view of the data. But then in order for you to consume, and I would like you to notice that, of course, for Charles, because he didn't see a doctor, then he has no waiting time. So in order for you to see a more comprehensive analysis of the data, you go back to more reports and then you click on descriptive statistics. Now this is what runs an analysis on the data set. You can see we have an N equals to 5 because we interviewed 5 patients. 3 of those, 60%, were male, then the remainder were female. 3 of those had an appointment and 2 just walked in to the facility without an appointment. Most of them saw the doctor, 80%, just 1 out of the 5 did not see the doctor. And then this is a histogram that analyzes the waiting time. So you can see the mean waiting time is 11.5 with a median of 12 minutes. And it ranges from 4 minutes, which was the fastest someone saw the doctor, to 18 minutes, which was the longest that someone had to wait. So even if you have 100 questions, they all get analyzed this way, variable by variable, automatically. Now, the other kind of report you can look at is GeoMap. So GeoMap just essentially takes the GPS coordinates and overlays them on Google Maps. So you can see this just so happens to be where I am right now as I enter this this data at the Hoji office. It doesn't look very interesting right now, but if you had a whole bunch of field officers collecting data from different places, then this would be a more colorful map. Then you've got activity monitor, which essentially analyzes the metadata. So how many records have been entered for each enumerator? What's the average speed? So the average speed right now is about 25 questions per minute, which is fairly quick. How long does it take to complete on average? How long does it take to upload a record? This should be next to 0 because it's pretty much instant. And a whole lot of other metadata that I don't want to go into right now. Maybe one interesting one is GPS accuracy. So the accuracy of the GPS information that we've collected so far is about that many meters. This is a little crazy, probably some errors in the Android device emulator that I am using. And then another kind of report you can do is there's an inbuilt pivot table that you can use to do more analysis on your data. So if you wanted to compare, for example, the median waiting time between patients who had an appointment versus patients who don't have an appointment, you could do that by, this works exactly like an Excel pivot table. So you could do that by saying, I think the variable is called visit type. So you put visit type here and then you substitute this for waiting time. So waiting time, you want to see the median waiting time. And you can see the median waiting time for appointment patients is 14 minutes and for walk-in patients is 9 minutes. And you can even chart that as a bar chart, for example. And then you can save it and give it a name. And you say median waiting time by visit type. Once you do that, you can save it to the dashboard. And then what happens is if you come to more reports and you go to custom dashboard, then you can see your report there. And you can save as many of these as possible so that you can essentially set up a dashboard. If we were taking any pictures, we'd have something under image gallery, but we weren't. So there is nothing for now. So that's essentially a quick, maybe not so quick demo into many of the features available on Hoji. Of course, there's so much more. But yes, I should give you a good idea of what you can do on the platform. Thanks for watching.